You step cautiously through the colony gates.
So, how's it going, little partner?
Chief Surveyor Utopia steps casually out to bar your way while making it look accidental.
Whoa there. I don't know if you're ready to head out there and join the surveyors just yet. Why don't you skedaddle and stick to sports ball inside the walls for now?
She rubs her knuckles into your scalp and sends you on your way. I'm tough enough!
Well, I'll be.
Utopia drawls, grappling you playfully.
You ain't lying, kid. You got grit. Listen,
She tells you.
I'll speak to your parents. You're still a bit young, but I'd wager next year you can join the junior survey teams, alright? Just hold tight until then. Sorry, Sprout.
Dejected, you drag your feet as you walk back through the gates to safety.
Psst.
What's that? You look around questioningly.
Psst.
It's Dis. He's hiding behind some bushes? That's so typical. He puts a finger to his lips and motions for you to follow him. Sure, you figure. Why not? He leads you silently along the walls toward the garrison, then crouches down in the bushes between the sports ball field and the security pavilion to fiddle with something. Suddenly, he's gone? What? You check to make sure nobody else noticed, then scuttle over to where you last saw him. Behind the popflower bushes, there's a drainage pipe in the wall big enough to crawl through. A heavy gate keeps animals out, but it's loose. You could slide it aside to get through. You could sneak out. If the adults won't let you visit the Valley of Vertigo, or the Subaqueous Swamps, or the other cool places surveyors get to go, well, you could sneak through here to explore just outside the colony walls. If Dis does it, how dangerous could it be? You step cautiously through the colony gates. Chief Surveyor Utopia stops you with a hand on your forehead.
Whoa there, scamp. They'd kill me if I let you out of the colony. Sorry, kiddo, you'll have to wait till you're old enough. I know it's hard.
A nearby pond has dammed up and washed out the path here. The path continues on the other side. Bravely jump over it! You bravely fall in and get wet! You flounder towards the other side, soaked but victorious. Some farmland has spilled outside the walls. The fields don't look like they're doing very well. Nobody's around right now. In fact, it looks a bit abandoned. There are some meager-looking crops ready to harvest, but animals are starting to get at them. Salvage. You pull up a handful of wrinkly tubers. They're probably supposed to be potatoes, eventually. Or maybe yams. It's hard to tell. You dig around a little longer, but it's all pretty picked over. You spot Dis sitting in a clearing, but not before he sees you first. Instead of sneaking away as usual, he stays still as you approach. Like it's totally natural that he'd be sitting in the middle of the jungle so far away from the colony walls. Now that you think about it, you're a little glad to see him. You are so far away that you can't see the walls anymore, and it's really weird out here. And it's getting late. Dis stares unblinkingly at you as you approach.
Hi, Soul.
Is all he says. Why are you out here?
I just really like it out here.
He explains, haltingly.
It's quiet. No one tries to talk to me.
He gives you a sideways look.
Well, not as many people.
He adds.
How about I show you something cool? And sneaking out will be our secret, okay?
He jumps up and walks a little ways into the trees. You follow. Just a few minutes away, the ground drops off and a large stone outcropping juts out over a cliff face. Dis walks right to the edge without slowing. It's a long way down.
Come on,
He says. Try to be brave. You bravely step onto the rock and walk out to the edge with Dis. You both sit down, feet dangling over the precipice. You look out at the amazing view. It's incredible. You snap a picture with your hollow palm, but you won't share it on the net. This is your secret. Yours and Dis's. Go home. You've been having weird dreams, as usual. They seem to get worse around glow. You wake from a dream that has tears drying on your face, that you can't remember why. Just that you were terrified. Whatever it was, it felt real enough that for a moment you just lie in bed with your eyes closed and try to calm your breathing. You blarily rub your eyes and...
Surprise!
Oh, it's your birthday! Your dad leaps onto your bed and gives you a big cuddle.
Happy birthday, little tomato head. 12 years old. Wow! Can you believe it?
No.
Your mom answers for you, laughing as she hands you your presents.
It was just yesterday Seedent was showing me how to change your diaper.
Because it's your birthday, your parents have brought in food from the canteen so you can all eat together on your bed. As you stuff your face with savory tofu chunks, you open your presents. Which one is your favorite? A bouquet of exotic flowers from your mom. They are exotic because they came from Earth.
I saved these seeds in cold storage for over 20 years, just for this day.
Your mom says proudly.
These are the first Earth flowers to bloom on Vertumna. White Astrantia.
She pinches your cheek.
They're special, just like you.
As your dad clears away the wrapping paper and the dishes from breakfast, your mom folds her hands on the table and gives you a serious look. Uh-oh.
So,
She says.
we've been here for 2 years now. I know your dad and I have always said you're in charge of your schedule, but we've been keeping an eye on you.
A loving eye.
Your dad interjects, stuffing wrapping paper into the recycler pickup bin.
A trusting, gentle eye.
Professor Hal used to tell us all the time about how hard you're trying in school.
Your mom continues.
That's great. Your dad and I are really proud of you. Working might seem fun and grown up when you're a kid, but if you want to do more than manual labor, you'll need some book smarts too.
Your dad joins you again.
So, it's time to start thinking about how you're going to contribute to the colony when you're older.
At the look on your face, he laughs.
Don't worry. We're not going to make you get a job right now. We're just asking, what do you want to be when you grow up?
A farmer, like you two. Your mom looks touched, but says,
We're actually called agriculturalists, Soul.
Your dad hums.
I prefer cultivator myself.
Your mom thwops him with the back of her hand, and she laughs.
Well, technically we're a combination of agronomist and pastoralist, I suppose.
Well,
Your mom starts to get up.
I'm sure your friends all want to wish you a happy birthday.
She stops and snaps her fingers.
Oh, you might not have considered a career as a depot clerk, but Al and Bernie mentioned their daughter Marz is working there and she needs some help. Now that people can freely order luxuries, it's pretty busy there.
Sure beats shoveling dirt.
Your dad laughs.
If you don't take that job, you tell Marz I'll be right there.
Your mom rolls her eyes and smiles. You tell Tangent you know where Dis has been going. You tell her he has been sneaking out to explore the jungle. Not far away, but outside the walls. Tang looks concerned.
Really?
She says, wringing her hands.
Is it safe?
I'll keep him safe. She eyes you skeptically.
Full offense, Soul. But you're just a kid.
She replies.
However, I suppose it's good to know he isn't alone out there.
Tangent is storming around the quad in front of engineering, checking notes on her holopalm, gesturing and grunting in frustration.
This is the worst!
What's the matter?
I can't possibly...
She says, her voice cracking. She seems too upset to even explain it.
Professor Hal.
She tries again.
Hal. He was helping me with the physics chapter. And now he's...
She throws her hands in the air, virtual holopalm screens flying everywhere.
I can't understand this without him! This is impossible!
She chokes out.
Why did he have to die?
Give Tang a hug. She stiffens, then lets you hold her. You can feel her shaking. You think she might be crying, but when she finally pulls away, her eyes are dry.
Thank you, Soul.
She says.
I know you're having a hard time with this as well. Nothing is easy on Vertumna, and even the adults can't protect themselves. It's obvious we're on our own out here.
Well, good luck. Tang nods, going back to her notes.
Thank you.
She mumbles.
Oh, hey, Soul.
Marz says, breezing past you.
I'm sorry. I can't talk now. I'm on my way to work in command.
She stops when you don't sound amazed enough.
You know, the supply depot.
She clarified.
It's the most important job in the whole colony. Anything that gets made here goes through me first.
Marz's smug smile gets somehow even more smug.
Plus, I get the first pick of all the best stuff.
Could I work there with you?
Well...
Marz hems and haws.
I suppose it is a lot of work to do alone. And I do like you. We should stick together.
Whatever Marz does to pull Administrator Seeq's strings works, because an hour later you get a message from them on your holopalm. They are dubious that you will be able to rise to the responsibilities of the role, but that's nothing new. Seeq is dubious about everyone and everything, but they agree Marz would be more efficient if she had someone else to keep an eye on her. Your mom loves to give long biology lectures while the two of you move dirt.
We're very lucky that the vertumnal soil more or less resembles Earth's already.
She explains.
It has a few harmful salts or heavy metals that would be poisonous to people, like many planets in the Sol system. And most life on Vertumna is carbon-based, just like on Earth, and the atmosphere contains about the same breathable mix of nitrogen and oxygen, which is why we chose it.
She frowns and leans on her shovel.
But the soil is more acidic, more dense, and contains less calcium and nitrogen. Not quite right.
Tell me more about dirt. Your mom smiles while she works.
Well, you know, we're mostly made of carbon and we mostly breathe oxygen. But nitrogen, usually in the form of ammonia or nitrate, is another basic building block of our cells. It's in our DNA, RNA, and amino acids.
She gestures at the sky.
Vertumnal plants can absorb nitrogen from the air, but earth plants and humans can't. It needs to be fixed into the soil. That's usually done with bacteria called diazotrophs, which take atmospheric nitrogen and turn it into ammonia, which earth plants can absorb through their roots. The soil on Vertumna has plenty of phosphorus and potassium, but less nitrogen. We don't know why. Where are the diazotrophs? Why isn't nitrogen left behind by decaying plants like it is on Earth? If you keep studying, maybe you can figure it out someday.
This is fascinating. Your mom hums.
Vertumnal soil also has a high acidity.
She explains.
Its pH is around 3 or 4, making plant roots less efficient at absorbing nutrients. For example, corn and rice need a pH of 6. Even acid-tolerant blueberries need a pH of at least 4.5. We went through a lot of calcium carbonate when we were setting up the gardens, mostly from limestone. Limestone on Earth is made of coral or shellfish, but we haven't found any here yet.
She wipes her brow.
We have to use calcium oxide from wood ash. It helps bring the pH up a little, making the soil more alkaline.
Yes, more. I love dirt. Your mom says.
Did I ever tell you about everything we lost during the wormhole accident? I didn't want you to worry, but in addition to a lot of our food supply, we also lost one very important geoponics cache, our compost.
You look around. Big deal. Vertumna is covered with dirt.
Our compost housed precious diazotrophs and other bacteria. Those tiny organisms that break down plant matter and pull nitrogen from the air into nutrients Earth plants can absorb. They don't exist here on Vertumna. Only a small amount of Earth soil survived.
She sighs.
Now we need to help those bacteria multiply and spread, converting all this useless red vertumnal dirt into the dark, nitrogen-rich soil that Earth plants like to grow in. So, that's what we're doing now.
Cal is lying in the scrub grass at the edge of the garden, staring up at the sky. He blinks at you as your shadow passes over him.
Hey, Sol.
He says, smiling around a stalk of grass between his teeth.
You ever just take some time and appreciate this place? We got sky and clouds and rain and wind. After growing up on the Strato, it all seems pretty magical.
Want to hear a fun nature fact? You tell him about the time Tang brought a skunk bug for show and tell in biology, and it got scared and made the worst, most smelliest, grossest stink you have ever smelled, and everyone thought Tang had farted. Then Professor Hal had to clear out the whole room, and it took weeks to get the smell out of the beanbags, and it was so gross, but also kind of neat. How such a tiny bug can make a whole room of kids run away. Cal laughs.
I remember that, Sol. Except the way I heard it, it wasn't Tang. It was you.
Seeq rolls their eyes when they see you report to the depot for your first day as a clerk.
Oh, it's you.
They deadpan.
Well, at least you might learn something useful while you're here.
The depot is where the precious nanoprinter lives. Seeq lords over it like a tyrant, and they don't like children. They load the depot module on your holopalm and walk you through the process.
People submit requisitions for the nanoprinter through this portal.
They explain.
It's your job to program the correct routine into the nanoprinter to fulfill their order. Then you mark it as available for delivery or pickup, depending on if we have a delivery person available.
Seeq grumbles.
And we almost never do.
With that perfunctory explanation, Seeq leaves you to figure out what to do on your own. It's okay for the first hour or so, because no one puts in a requisition at all. It is pretty early. Maybe everyone is still asleep. Clean and organize the depot. There isn't a lot to organize, as you don't store a lot of stuff here except for things that people need all the time, like toothpaste. But you find a bucket and start to mop the floors the old-fashioned way, because there's nothing wrong with taking pride in your work. You are jerked back to reality by a haptic pulse through your holopalm, your first order! You excitedly open your holopalm and read it. Elbow grease, 1 gallon, it reads, from Cal. Geoponics delivery, ASAP. Fill the requisition. You fix the requisition to your holoscreen and fire up the nanoprinter. Huh? There must be something wrong because you're not finding anything under... You're about to punch in the parameters for something similar to what's in the requisition when you hear someone laughing behind you.
OMG!
Marz exclaims, leaning over your shoulder to look at your holopalm.
Are you serious? Are you kidding me right now? Like, Soul, that's not even a thing!
Marz snaps her gum in your ear as she reaches over and dismisses the requisition.
Here, I saved you from being a nullhead today. Now you owe me one,
she says.
I take payment in acts of service.
She hops onto the depot counter and primly crosses her legs.
I am so totally relieved to have you as my assistant here, Soul. Finally, someone to haul boxes and fetch things so I can focus on the important work.
Maybe we could share responsibilities.
I don't care which one of you is in charge,
Seeq interrupts.
so long as you get the work done.
Seeq pauses.
Wait, did you wash the floors?
They say, looking impressed.
Well, that does deserve a reward. Here you go.
They swipe their holopalm and you feel your pulse as a couple kudos are deposited to your account. Marz can hardly wait until Seeq is gone to giggle.
Either way, I'm glad you're here. This job is usually so boring.
Moni's big brother Calm teaches karate techniques to the class. Kicks, punches, flips, all the cool stuff. He's much more calm than Security Chief Ri0, and takes the time to connect with you instead of just relying on intimidation. You kind of wish he was the chief of security instead. Maybe one day. Ri0 can't be the boss forever. Right? Calm organizes your first karate tournament. Well, he doesn't call it a tournament. It's more like an exhibition, to show off how far everyone has come in their training. There's informal sparring matches and feats of strength, like high kick challenges and breaking boards. Despite Calm's best intentions, Moni is absolutely taking this like a competition. She takes her place next to you at the board breaking station and gives you a challenging look, tossing her unruly hair over her shoulder. Is it on? Oh, it's on. You break boards until your hands are red and sore, but it's no competition. Moni chews through those boards like they're made of soy bars. Moni is encouraging.
You're getting good. You just have to focus your power through your body more. Like, it's not just your hand doing the work.
She says, slapping you on the back. How are her hands not even sore?
It was close, though.
It wasn't, really. But it's nice she said so. Dad comes back from work one day looking seriously under the weather. He's pale, with deep circles under his eyes. and he keeps sneezing.
It's fine.
He insists.
It's just all this pollen in the air is gunking up the old air tubes. Do you remember hay fever, Flulu? We always got it back on Earth, too.
Your mom frowns and crosses her arms.
We did.
She agrees.
So why isn't it bothering me?
You're a lot tougher than me, sweet pea.
Your dad says, and your mom rolls her eyes.
I'm sure I just have to get used to it like you did.
He continues.
Maybe I'll go for a stroll outside the gates later. Really get a good lug full of the stuff. I'll feel bad for a few weeks, but after that I'll be fine.
Your mom raises both eyebrows.
Outside the gates. You?
Your dad shrugs, then he falls into a fit of sneezing and can't answer. Your mom directs him to go lie down on their bed.
You need rest, not machismo.
She scolds him.
I don't have a
Your dad sneezes.
macho bone in my body, foo-foo. And I have to fertilize the corn and the pixie bees this week.
Uh-huh, your mom grunts. Your dad pulls a handkerchief from his pocket and sneezes into it a few times. Big yelling honk sneezes that echo through your whole quarters. He pulls it away from his face, and you can tell that something's wrong.
Huh.
Your dad says weakly, holding the handkerchief away from his face. It's bright fuchsia pink and glittering in the light.
That's weird.
Then his eyes roll back in his head. His knees buckle. And your mom yells for you to call Instance. Chief Engineer Instance takes your dad's vitals and gives him a cursory look over. But she seems satisfied with what she sees without having to do a thorough examination.
The explorers have started calling this the Shimmer,
She says, shining a light down your dad's throat. He's looking a little better, but not much.
It's an airborne environmental toxin, likely in the pollen fog.
Will he be okay?
It doesn't seem to cause long-term damage to the body.
Instance explains. She gestures in the air, making notes on her hollow eye that only she can see.
I've been tracking its effects for 3 seasons now. The toxin is flushed out of the body after 3 to 5 days, and it's not contagious.
She looks down at your father.
What that means for you, Geranium, since you're particularly susceptible to the toxin, you should be taking better pains to avoid exposure. If you must go outside during pollen, use a respirator.
Your dad smiles weakly.
You got it, boss.
He says. Your mom smiles and puts her hand over his.
As your literal boss, I'm ordering you to not come into work for the rest of the week.
She says.
You're on strict bed rest.
She leans in to touch her forehead to his. They stay like that, smiling with relief. Even after 1 day of bed rest, your dad is looking a lot better. He's clearly anxious to get back out into the fields.
You're gonna love this new crop, Soul. It's called a pixie bean. They glow in the dark.
He's already pulling on his boots.
The fields look so beautiful at night. I'm happy that we finally found something that would actually grow here that isn't soy, and more soy.
I'm happy too. Your hollow palm pulses with a message from Tang.
Hello, Soul. If you're not occupied, could I ask for your assistance in the lab? Thank you in advance. Tangent.
Typical Tang. But her asking for help is something so rare that you can't help but head over right away. You find her hunched over a spectrometer, making notes on the hollow screen.
Oh, you're here!
She says, blinking rapidly. She looks like she's been awake for days. Wrinkled, a little shiny, and with the wild-eyed look of someone who needs a cup of Blatt tea. I just happened to be nearby.
I'm researching the Shimmer, the respiratory illness some people report during the pollen.
She says.
I'm loath to admit it, but I need your assistance.
She takes 4 vials with swabs inside and puts them into your hands.
I need recent saliva samples for both you and your father.
She says.
There must be a reason why he's so susceptible to the Shimmer, and you're not. You share half of your genetic code with him. There must be some marker we can compare between the 2 samples. Then,
she continues, pulling another vial from a rack of test tubes.
Administer this to yourselves. Wait 3 days and take the samples again. The test should be able to determine if anything in your body chemistry has changed.
Tang looks at you very seriously, cutting through her bleary expression.
There's something going on here.
She whispers.
Something really, really big. I've begun to realize this is about more than just curing a disease.
She squeezes your hand so hard it almost hurts.
It could lead to a greater understanding of all life in Vertumna. And knowledge. Knowledge is more than power, Soul. It's control.
Are you okay? You seem unhinged. Tang blinks again.
I'm perfectly fine.
She says dismissively.
This is the face of complete concentration and focus. I'm in the zone, Soul.
Okay, I'll do it.
Thank you.
Tang says.
I've been researching so hard, I think my eyes are going to fall out of my head. For what?
Well, for the end of debilitating disease is a pretty good reason. But Tang just shakes her head at herself before you can answer.
We're at a disadvantage here.
She mutters.
We're fighting blind. We need to understand this planet if we're going to get it under our control.
Hey, Squirt.
Your mom calls out to you.
Don't you think it's time you started thinking about what you're going to do when you're older?
You look at her in confusion. Isn't she always telling you to stay in school? She chuckles.
You gotta think about it sometime, kid. How about you come join your folks on the farm, if you think you're up for it?
I'm ready. Your mom claps you on the back. Oof, she's as strong as she looks.
Great,
she says.
Come see me in geoponics when you're ready to start. It'll be more fun than wheeling dirt around, I promise.
Earth plants use chlorophyll for photosynthesis, which makes them green. There's no green plant life here on Vertumna except for the stuff you brought with you. Vertumna plants must use something different, like a phycobiolin or a carotenoid. You are not entirely sure of the precise chemistry, but it's gotta be something. Dust is such a dry, hot season. Both suns are high in the sky, baking the usually lush Vertumnan jungle. If there's a breeze, it's warm and, you guessed it, dusty. Your parents are up every day before dawn, which comes far too early for your liking. They are usually gone by the time you wake up and home after you're asleep, so you have to visit them at work if you want to see them.
Good morning, Gooseberry.
Your dad greets you cheerily.
Have you come to see the harvest? Your mom and I are gathering crops from actual Vertumnan dirt this week.
I just miss you, and Mom.
Oh, Buttercup.
He sighs, kneeling down to look at you.
I'm so sorry. How about your mom and I take the day off, and we have some family time together?
I'd like that.
As promised, your parents leave work early for the day and spend it with you. They take you for a long walk all the way along the colony walls and have a picnic overlooking the mush tree jungle beyond. Then you head back to the lounge to play a Vert Space game, an old one where the three of you play mice and you have to build things to solve puzzles together. As your parents tuck you in that night, you think this must be the best day you've had in a long time. Moni looks up from her holopalm and sighs dramatically as you approach.
Man, I hate school learning!
She exclaims, prodding at her screen.
Why do I even have to do this?
Here, I got something for you.
Cool. Thanks.
Moni says, taking the egg.
I guess it is my birthday this week. I kind of forgot.
It's a proud day for your mom. You're finally following in her footsteps. She meets you at the gate to the gardens.
Hello, Sprout.
She says, sounding chipper.
Come on. We've got a lot to cover before you'll be able to keep up with the rest of us.
Finally, some real farming. Your mom shows you around the fields and the geoponic stones.
You'll mostly be working in the fields with the hardier earth crops like potatoes and the corn, as well as the native plants we've managed to cultivate.
She frowns.
We will figure out how to cultivate these native plants. Somehow.
You spend the rest of the day pulling weeds and watering plants. You're dirty up to your waist by the time you're finished, but it's good, honest work. You're proud to be able to do something that helps out the colony. Cal gives you a high five and invites you for a cool drink in the cafeteria. All the other agriculturalists join you. Of all the places in the colony you've worked, geoponics is the most like a family. Maybe because they've always been your family, thanks to your mom and dad. It's time for the 3rd annual Vertumnala Festival. You gather with your family in the colony square. Everyone takes a seat as Governor Eudicot approaches the stage. She folds her hands and serenely addresses the crowd.
What a pleasure to address you all today as your governor.
She says, looking as pleased as she ever does.
In under 3 years, we've built a colony of which we can be truly proud. While we've suffered hardships and losses, we remain standing. As always, looking toward the future we are building together. Let us use this Midsummer Festival as a time to reflect on our many blessings.
Eudicot continues.
Fresh water, good food, healthy children, and a strong community.
Eudicot bows her head.
But first, let us remember Professor Halitosis, who guided our children and kept our engines running for so many years. Chief Engineer Instance will be filling in with help from our ship's AI Congruence, until someone can take up the mantle that rested so easily on Hal's broad shoulders. We also recognize the passing of our dear friend, Chief Surveyor Melatonin. Known for his gentle nature and his curious spirit, Tonin joins his daughter Aspartame and his partner Lavandula in the world of our memories. In his place, we welcome our youngest council member ever, Utopia, representing Expeditions.
Eudicot invites the rest of the council to stand and be recognized among the crowd, including your mom, who huffs in annoyance. When the applause dies down and the council sits, Utopia remains standing.
Actually, Auntie Eudicot, y'all mind if I just make a quick announcement?
Eudicot nods and Utopia clears her throat.
I just wanted to say thanks to y'all who are trusting me with this job.
She says, her clear voice ringing out over the crowd. A cheer rises from Expeditions, and she motions for them to quiet down.
Uncle Tonin's left some big shoes to fill, and, well, I'm gonna give it my best. We're fixing to get to the bottom of what we're calling the shimmer, the sniffles folks been getting during pollen.
Utopia continues.
Until we do, please keep on wearing your masks when the pollen is thick, and let the doc know if you're under the weather.
She bends down to hug the governor as she leaves the stage.
Thank you, Utopia.
Eudicot says warmly.
And thank you all to the rest of the council for their service.
Live music starts playing and Eudicot smiles.
And now, it's time for games and feasting.
The crowd disperses towards the feasting tables, clearing the area of chairs so the children's competitions can be held. Which will you do this year? Bot Triathlon. Com keeps adding complexity to his bot wrestling game. Last year was the hollow obstacle course, and this year there's an accuracy challenge.
Sing 3 baskets and you can move on to the next stage.
Com says, unveiling something with a flourish, a vacuum-bot with a basket tied to its head. It chirps as it stomps back and forth, and the crowd cheers. You're competing against Moni and Cal. You notice they're not racing around together. Cal is playing with the Vacubot and Moni is standing next to her brother. You're up first. Start the triathlon. You thought the accuracy portion would be harder. Those Vacubots can be fast when they're on a mission. This one seems to get bored waiting for you to complete the obstacle course, so by the time you line up to take your shots with the sports ball, it's stopped running around and has taken to carefully vacuuming the dirt under its feet. You easily sink your baskets and move on to the wrestling competition and win by a huge margin. Moni pouts and stomps over to Calm, yelling that it isn't fair that you got it easy. She refuses to speak to you until Calm sits you both down and makes you shake hands, pointing out that Moni also got hit by 5 hollow obstacles and couldn't have won anyway. Moni begrudgingly accepts your win. After the festivities, you take time off for a much-needed, very relaxing break. Your dad sets up a slip-and-slide through the colony square, and everyone takes turns sliding on their stomachs and spraying water at each other. It's a lot of fun. You can feel your worries floating away in the hot dust suns. You catch Cal at the gate to the gardens. He's carrying a big bucket of rocks.
Hi, Sol.
He exclaims.
Oh, I'm supposed to tell you there's a new park near Geoponics now.
Cal says.
We can run around all we want, and nobody will say we're trampling the fields. You should come play there sometime.
Moni and Nougat are kicking up a huge cloud of dust outside the garrison, passing a sports ball back and forth and chasing each other around. Moni looks up at you as you approach and flails excitedly at you.
Sol, hey!
She says, jumping up and down.
Look!
She bounces the sports ball on her knees.
Look at what Nougat and Ri are practicing!
Moni bounces the sports ball from one knee to the other a few times before launching it up into the air. She crouches, leaps after it, and spikes it with her head towards Nougat with a yell. The sports ball thuds into Nougat's chest, sending her sprawling to the dirt. For a second you freeze, waiting for the crying to start. Instead, Nougat shrieks and laughs, clutching the ball as Moni jumps up and down and pumps her fist dramatically.
4 points for the ball not touching the ground after contact!
Moni crows.
The crowd goes wild! The Garrison Galaxies win again! Woo!
Nougat cups her hands over her mouth, imitating the roar of a crowd. Wow, that's awesome!
I know, right?
Moni beams. She stands up straighter and puts her hands on her hips.
I'm gonna be just as good as my big bro someday. And Nougat will too.
She rubs the back of her second hand across her nose, leaving a smear of dirt.
Hey, you should come by the sports ball pitch sometime. I can show you some tricks.
Moni and Nougat look at you expectantly. Okay, I will!
Yay! Great!
Moni says, bouncing on her feet.
I can't wait! I'm so excited! Sports ball is my favorite thing on the planet!
Her eyes go wide.
Maybe even the whole galaxy!
Me too, me too!
Nougat yells from where she's still lying on the ground. She picks herself up and carefully puts the ball down in front of her, then kicks it to an enemy.
Did you see that?
Moni laughs.
She kicked the ball with her foot! Nougat's a natural. She's already inventing new ways to play sports ball. Future Coach Nougat.
Nougat puts her hands on her tiny hips.
If you come to practice, you gotta play.
She challenges, pointing at you.
Nami says I get to be coach, so it's my rules.
You and Moni both burst out laughing. Nougat is such a little character. You step cautiously through the colony gates. You aren't going to catch Chief Surveyor Utopia unawares. She can spot a kid trying to sneak out of the gates from half a click away. She grins and makes a turnaround gesture with her fingers. The path here is engulfed by a dust tornado. It whirls and twirls, not showing any sign of moving away. Walk through the dust. You shut your eyes hard against the swirling dust and somehow manage to walk in a straight line through it. Once you pass, though, and turn around, the dust storm settles. You wonder if walking through it somehow caused it to die down. Your way is blocked by a strange, small creature with 1 foot and 4 large eyes, 2 of which blink sideways on top of its head like frog eyes. Oh, this must be a hop eye. You've heard people talk about them, but you've never seen one up close. It suddenly starts flailing around like there's something wrong with it, even though it was fine a second ago. It keeps pausing to look at you, then goes back to flailing. What is its deal? Stop trying to get past it and just listen. Oh, you can hear little squeaking noises from nearby. It's probably warning you away from its nest. You carefully avoid the nest while speaking in soothing tones. The agitated little guardian titters warnings at you, but eventually lets you by. There in the clearing, the most majestic creature you've ever seen. It's like a unicorn from your dad's storybooks, but with a leathery reptile skin that shines when the light hits it. It moves so softly, like it doesn't even disturb the ground. It could be dangerous, but you want to see what it does. As quiet as possible. As you settle in to watch it from behind a strand of mush trees, the Unisaur looks up towards you, startled by your movement. You try to hold perfectly still and quiet your breathing. After a tense moment, it goes back to its business. First, it sniffs out a good tree and rubs the scent glands in its neck against it thoroughly. Then it pees like a crystal waterfall on a rock. Everything it does seems magical. You quietly take a picture with your hollow palm, but you know you can't share it or you get caught for sneaking out. Next, it sharpens its horn against a rock, which is scored with marks from having done this before. This must be its favorite sharpening rock. You notice the bulge in its stomach. It must have had a huge meal recently. Eventually, it curls up for a nap. You quietly sneak away. This was so wonderful. Rtumna is a magical place. You're minding your own business when you stumble into... It's so hot! The two suns are beating down on you. The ground is cracked and parched, and so are you. Ahead is a long stretch with no trees. Just the merciless heat of the sun scorching the ground. Look for a shady route through it. You spend some time going the long way around, taking shelter under some mush trees. It's still sweltering in the shade, but not so bad. You come across a cluster of mush trees. They're not fully grown yet, but they're still pretty big. It might be good to harvest them before they get all gross and mushy during the raining season. If you were older, you could probably cut them down and get some kudos for them. Give them a friendly pat. You like the mush trees. You give one a pat and are surprised when it moves under your hand. It's not the tree though, but a camouflaged creature lying against the trunk. It's small and looks a little like an octopus or a starfish. Lots of long legs wrapped around the tree like it's giving it a hug. You let your mind wander as you're walking, and bumble straight into a field of gelatinous blobgrass. Totally transparent, and sticky fronds are hard to see, but even harder to ignore, especially once they start glomming onto your boots and slowing you down. It's like trudging through thick mud. You stubbornly decide to keep going, paying close attention to the visible signs of this blobgrass field. And there aren't many, just an absence of other vegetation. Look for a path through it. There it is. You can hop along from that rock to the fallen log, then climb over those old pieces of surveying equipment. You get through the villainous blobgrass. You spend a bunch of time on it though, and it takes some tricky balancing. It's tiring. Ahead of you, the road curves right, and there's a steep hill leading off to the left. You bet there's a really great view from the top of it, but it's going to be a scramble to get up there. Continue on your way. The muck hides interesting bugs and other treasure for those willing to put their hands down the right holes. Are you? Peek inside that hole. Looks dark. On second thought, nope. A large woolly blue creature is floating here, a meter off the ground. It seems to be upside down, which is causing it some distress. Its segmented legs kick uselessly in the air as it tries to right itself. This must be a float cow. The colony is working on domesticating these. though you haven't seen one up close before. Her settled eyes look at you imploringly. She makes a helpless lowing noise and tries again to flip over, but she can't. Figure out what's wrong with her. You take a closer look at the float cow. You've heard they float using a certain ratio of liquid gas to their membranous bladders. So after some consideration, you figure out that the bladder on her back must be too full of liquid. Milk the float cow. It's hard to milk a float cow that's upside down. She struggles and kicks her legs at you as you try to flip her over long enough to get to the udders. But thanks to a combination of might and empathy, you manage to calm her down. She's still sick. Milk's supposed to collect in the lower udder, not her gas bladder. But at least she's balanced now, and she has a chance to get well on her own. You're strolling along the path when suddenly, everything goes quiet. The wilderness is never quiet. There's always insect noises, the chirping of reptiles, even the wind in the trees has gone entirely silent. There's something unnatural about this place. Bravely continue on. You walk through the quiet area. The noise starts up again. The mystery will have to remain unsolved. Spooky. You're too worn out and tired to continue. You have to go home now. Cal is sitting on the garden fence, his feet tucked into the slats, tapping away at his hollow screen.
School's way more interesting when you can actually see how it matters,
he says.
Your mom says I can do more important stuff on the farm if I learn about crop rotation and stuff.
He frowns at his hollow screen.
There's more math than I thought there'd be.
I found something you might like. Cal gasps.
My favorite food! And on my birthday too!
He makes grabby hands at the cake and takes a big huff of the pleasant sugary smell as his eyes slip closed in sheer pleasure.
Wow, Soul,
he breathes.
You are really the best of the best. Here, you have a piece too. Let the icing melt in your mouth and let all your worries melt away with it.
You and Cal walk through the park, a special place set aside for growing ornamental plants from Earth. It was grown from a precious seed bank, preserved for over 20 years abroad the stratospheric, before your mother started planting them here on Vertumna. Almost nothing here is grown for food, though many of them are technically edible.
It's so green here,
Cal says, stopping to smell a bush of fist-sized red flowers with velvety petals.
Wow, they smell so sweet.
My mom worked really hard on this. Your mom brought these flower seeds from Earth and somehow found time to cultivate them here, even though there was so much work to do on the farm. It just goes to show that there's a lot about your mom that you still don't know. It's so peaceful. Cal breathes deep, a funny smile on his face.
It really is. This is one of my favorite places in the whole colony. I can really feel the love in every plant.
One pretty white flower in particular is flourishing here. The Astrantia, your mother's favorite. It seems to be growing faster than even native plants do. covering the paths and bluffs with tiny white stars. You practically have to push clumps of it aside in some places just to make sure you don't crush any. Good thing it's so beautiful.
Royal blue or peacock?
Marz asks, holding up 2 different jackets.
Or should I just recycle both and have the shop nano print a different color entirely?
She folds both jackets over her arms and sighs.
Or a different material? Translucent, maybe? Ugh, so many choices. At least I have more than enough kudos to burn.
I found something you might like.
Ha!
Marz laughs, taking the crystal and turning it over in her hands, inspecting it.
Well, I've had better birthday gifts this year, but I admit, this crystal is pretty fabulous. I'll add it to my collection.
It's another meeting of the Secret Fun Times Club. You're trying to figure out what to do today. It's your job as Vice President of Fun Ideas. But you're having trouble coming up with something. Think, Soul, think!
What's that smell?
Tang asks as she joins you. You think she means someone farted and you giggle. But then you can smell it too. It's like burning mustard or spices. Strong and acrid. Then the overhead lights start to flicker.
Oh, that keeps happening.
Marz says with a shrug.
Like, the same time every afternoon. Nobody knows why. It's a mystery.
She and Tang look at each other, then at you. A mystery! They jump to their feet. There's a mystery afoot. And the SFC is going to solve it. Tang brings up a fresh notepad on her holopalm and adds 2 bullet points. Clue 1, weird smell. Clue 2, flickering lights. Cal sniffs the air.
The smell's coming from that vent,
he says, pointing to a screen in the corner. Get a schematic to see where the vent goes. You pull up a schematic of the ship on your holopalm and track down where this vent goes. It takes a snaking route around the ship and connects to the cafeteria kitchens. It smells awful in here. Auntie Seedent is here, fanning the nanoprinter with a cutting board while it belches out a foul black smoke.
Oh gosh, kids!
She says.
Don't come any closer. This darn nanoprinter's on the fritz again. Everything that comes out is awfully burned, and I don't want you to breathe in the smoke. Every gosh darn day.
She mutters under her breath. You look up. The lights are flickering here too. There. Did you see it? You take a closer look. There's some kind of black dust near them. That's weird. Little clumps of it are stuck to the wall and ceiling, all around the outlet and the back of the nanoprinter too. You climb up onto the counter, much to Auntie Seedent's annoyance. When you put your hand near the black dust, your holopalm makes your hand tingle, like it's vibrating slightly. Kanjin climbs up with you and tries it too.
Electromagnetism,
she confirms.
The ferromagnetic materials in our holopalms are reacting to the presence of magnets, or an electric current. I think it's in this dust?
She makes a note. Clue 3, electromagnetic dust. Auntie Seedent shoos you out of the kitchens.
Out, out! Go play somewhere else, my darlings. We've got supper to prepare.
You follow the clumps of black dust through the lounge, down a long hallway to the children's creche. It's quiet here, and instinctively you all walk softly and stop talking. You slow as you approach the playroom. The creche playroom is empty and dimly lit, except for the holo projector in the corner showing a purple teddy bear. The one that electrocuted your friend Tammy. It keeps flickering on and off. Bravely enter the room. As you step in, all the lights in the room suddenly turn on. 2 musical toys start playing all at once, and a toy robot begins spinning in circles, whirring. Marz shrieks. Tangent rushes suddenly forward, grabs a glass from an art table, and slams it upside down on the counter.
I caught it!
she yells. You gather around to see. Under the glass are what look like 4 round metal things, like ball bearings. As you watch, one of them starts to roll. It advances to the edge of the glass and rolls in a ring around the inside. It stops, and a pair of long silver antennae emerge from the top of the ball. They click together, producing a bright spark of electricity. You all jump back. The other 3 balls gradually wake and begin snapping their own antennae.
I think we've solved our mystery,
Tang says with a growing smile. Sure enough, you find more magnetic black dust and something else. Tiny bite marks in the electric cord leading to the hollow projector.
They must be feeding off the electricity
Tang explains.
and storing it like a battery to use for self-defense. And this dust must be their excrement. Fascinating.
You report your findings to Dr. Instance. She discovers these pests have in fact been siphoning off electric current from your ship since it landed, and are responsible for some dangerous power surges. One such surge must have been the one that killed your friend Tammy. Quick look around the room, everyone knows it. Moni rubs Cal's back as he stares at the ground. Instance sends you all some kudos and thanks.
And furthermore, your attitude toward your elders in general is entirely disrespectful.
You find Eudicot delivering a scathing reprimand to Marz, who was doing her level best to look like she'd rather be anywhere else.
You speak out of turn, you question the council's decisions. If you disagree on an order, you simply do not do it. I could go on. Do you need me to go on?
Marz scowls.
No.
She replies. Eudicot clicks her tongue.
I honestly thought better of you, Marzipan.
She chastises.
You have the sort of natural leadership ability I remember from when I was a girl many years ago.
Marz doesn't roll her eyes, but you get the sense it's a close call.
You need to set a better example for the other children.
Eudicot continues.
It's okay to have your own opinions, but you kids can't just do whatever you want. You have to follow the rules and respect your elders.
I am setting a good example.
Marz retorts, stomping her foot.
Hello? The only reason we're here is because a bunch of people knew living on Earth was nonsense and decided to do something different.
Eudicot looks scandalized, but Marz just continues on.
Maybe kids should have more authority. We are the ones with the new ideas that'll take us to the future.
Stay quiet and respectful. Eudicot stands up a little straighter.
Excuse me, young lady.
She rasps.
To whom do you think you're referring where you call on the bravery of those who left Earth and dreamed of a new world? I've been in command of this colony longer than you've been alive.
Continues.
Like you, I see that as a strength, not a weakness. For example, I remember a time when children would stay silent and learn from the experience of their elders. Why, back on Earth in my day...
Marz locks eyes with you and gives you a subtle, "Can you believe this?" expression as Eudicot goes on, one of her formless rambles about how life on Earth wasn't entirely bad, and how this colony could use a little old-fashioned human discipline. After a while, Eudicot loses her train of thought and puts her hand to her forehead.
Both of you get back to your duties.
She sighs.
Marzipan, I don't want to have this talk with you again.
Marz makes a disgusted noise and storms off. It's been a while since you've been to life sciences class. You wonder who they got to teach it after Professor Hal died. He was the teacher backup on the ship. Who could possibly replace him? You take your seat in the classroom. There's no teacher here yet. You and the other students wait, exchanging awkward glances as time passes. Eventually, Chief Engineer Instance breezes through the door. She's accompanied by Tang, who takes a seat beside you, barely giving you a second look.
Look who showed up.
Instance snaps, with a sinking feeling. You know she's talking about you.
Soul, can you even tell me what life sciences entails?
Tang looks at you out of the corner of her eye, trying not to smirk. Bio, chem, medicine, ecology, geology. You easily rattle off the subject names. Instance doesn't look pleased, but she doesn't look disappointed either. That's about as good as you ever get from her, honestly, so you can count that as a win. Tangent stops you on the way to class.
So, were you heading to life sciences? Good. I can use your help with something, actually. I'm working with Chief Engineer Instance in the biolab. If you give me a hand with it, I'm sure she'll give you credit for the class.
Of course I'll help.
Honestly,
Admits Tang.
we just need somebody to label petri dishes and move them from the cooler to different machines. I hope I can do it.
Instance is staring unfocused at her hollow eye as she processes the results of the scans. Tang goes and stands beside her, pulling up the scan on her own hollow palm. They confer quietly while you wait. Sounds like they're studying the shimmer, the mysterious illness some colonists get during pollen every year, including your dad. Instance looks up at you, as if just noticing your existence.
Ah, Sol.
She says,
We've been studying samples from some of the colonists who get sick during pollen, including your dad. Some of the stuff in his lungs, it's some kind of fungus.
We think the shimmer is a form of reproduction.
Tang explains.
It's like a fungus trying to turn us into more fungus like it. It's really neat, actually.
You sound like you like the fungus.
I admire the mechanism.
Tang corrects you.
But we'd be much safer if surveyors just set fire to it all, rather than trying to study it. Who knows what else is out there trying to kill us?
You spend the rest of the week helping them study the illness. Mostly, this involves following instructions and doing, as Tang loves to repeat, jobs they hope I could do. Nothing beats hands-on experience, though.
This would be easier if we had an actual sample of the fungus.
Instance remarks. They're working with some biological samples, a fancy word for snot. But according to them, the fungus is all mixed in with human cells. Instance has to spend a lot of time in vert space trying to disconnect the two in her models. Where could I find a sample?
Our most useful reports have been from foragers returning from the Valley of Vertigo,
She tells you.
where the pollen is thick all year. That might be a good place to start.
Don't.
Tang says, as soon as you open your mouth to speak. She holds up one scolding finger.
I'm about to make a breakthrough. Do not interrupt me unless it's serious.
Here, I have something for you.
It seems you remembered my birthday.
Tang says, taking the roots and turning them over in her hands. Her lip curls in distaste at the dirt that still cling to them.
How thoughtful of you. I have much to do today, but I'll set these roots aside to analyze later.
She turns to walk away, then remembers herself.
Thank you.
She adds, almost as an afterthought. Tangent is deep in conversation with one of the other scientists. He seems to be consoling her, though Tangent's face betrays no emotion, as he claps her on the shoulder and reassures her that she's doing really well for someone so young, and that everyone compromised some of their samples when they were first learning. He leaves, and Tangent sighs as she goes to put her head in her hands, stopping short when she realizes she's still wearing gloves. She peels them off and digs her fingers into her eyes. Are you okay, Tangent?
I'm fine.
Tangent replies immediately.
I compromised an experiment I was working on, because the vent was still open when I was spraying the workstation down with sanitizer.
She sniffs.
It's so gross here.
She says.
I probably did that fungus a favor.
Tangent takes a bottle of sanitizer from under her workbench and cleans while she speaks.
There are pollen spores everywhere.
She whines.
And he comes over here and tells me, it'll be okay, Tang. Like it's his job to console and patronize me.
I hate being patronized too. You both sigh in unison.
I hate being young.
She says bitterly.
Why don't they understand that we have higher expectations for ourselves than they do? I need to learn from my own failures. What I don't need.
She continues icily.
Someone to pat me on the head and tell me it's okay, and the adults will make it all better. I messed up,
she says.
Just let me fix it. Don't make a big deal about it like I'm a child with a boo-boo.
You can hear Dis sniffling, finding him tucked into a leeward alcove of the walls. He stumbles to his feet when he sees you approach.
What do you want?
He scowls.
Did Marz send you? Tang? I'm not going back. I'm not just going to do what people tell me.
Does this interest you?
For my birthday?
He mumbles.
Oh, thank you. This looks like it's from a very rare plant. Did you find it while you were exploring?
You slip through the colony gates, feeling the breeze from the mushroom forest ruffle your hair. You look around for Dis, but he's nowhere to be seen. Maybe he went to class today. Probably not. You're about to return to the colony. You hear what sounds like crying coming from one of the expedition vehicles. You pull back the tarp that keeps it from being blanketed with fungal spores and find Dis curled up in the cabin. He wipes his eyes and turns away.
Go away,
he mutters. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Dis sniffles.
Just leave me alone.
Do you want to talk about it?
Why don't you go ask my sister?
He mumbles.
Tang is so mature. She knows everything. I'm just a sensitive little crybaby who doesn't know anything.
Dis wraps his arms around his legs and hides his face in his knees.
I hate her,
he mutters.
Everyone thinks she's so smart, but she's just a big meanie. I hate everyone here. I hate being here. I just want to be left alone.
Moni can make a competition out of anything. Fastest lap, heaviest lift, most boards broken, highest kick. Most of the time she wins, too. She is a fierce competitor. The view from the wall during glow is absolutely breathtaking. The wormhole seems to smother the sky, like a swirling jewel-toned bowl pressed down on the gloom. Everything in the wilderness is lit up and seems to breathe in and out with the planet, like one living creature made of stars. It's beautiful. You could almost forget how dangerous it is. Two data points from a line, but 3 is a pattern. The colony has been on high alert to all glow, hoping that the creatures from beyond the wall don't return for a 3rd year in a row. Surveyors keep reporting that they're seeing unusual animal activity. Even the plants seem different, they say, and new tracks that must have been left by creatures larger and heavier than you've ever seen. You and the other colonists drill evacuation plans. You're in engineering when you hear the sirens ring through the colony. You cover your ears against the noise and make your way to the nearby classroom. This is one of the assembly points, so you should feel safe here. But it wasn't so safe last year for Professor Hal. What if another creature gets in? Congruence, the new teacher, is just a face on a computer screen. She can't protect anyone. Congruence flickers cheerfully.
Please stay calm, children,
she says.
The defense squad is already en route to the creatures. This should all be over soon.
You've been told this before. As the sirens continue, you're faced with a choice. Stay put. You, Tang, Marz, and the other kids try to stay calm. Congruence directs you under the big tables together, then assigns you a chapter on Earth history. as if nothing was happening. It's impossible to think with the siren going off. You read and reread the same paragraph over and over, trying not to think about some monster bursting through the door, or window, or wall. Take it seriously. There's nothing you can do, so you try to apply yourself to reading the chapter you've been assigned. You struggle with it, your mind racing. You notice Tangent trying to do the same. She gives you a faint smile over her holoscreen. It isn't long before the sirens turn off, ringing 3 short pulses as the all-clear message flashes on your holopalm. You and the other children file out of engineering, and you head back to your quarters. Your parents will want to know that you're safe. Your dad gives you a big hug, but your mom slumps into a seat at your small table.
It's like they were going specifically for geoponics this time,
she mutters, but your dad pets your hair and shushes her.
I'm sure it was just bad luck, Flulu,
he says, but your mom shakes her head and folds her hands in front of her mouth, staring out at the porthole windows at the fields.